This video is going to go over the first page of the Chapter 1 test review. And so you'll notice there's a formula bank at the top. All of these formulas will be ones that are given to you on the test. So let's go ahead and start with number 1. We need to find the length of line segment QS. So we want to find the length from point Q to point S. We know by the segment addition postulate that the two pieces must add to equal the length of QS. And so we can take 12 plus 19 to get the length of QS. And when we do that, we get a length of 31. So the length of QS is 31. And for your explanation, we could say the length of QR plus the length of RS is equal to the length of QS. And that's how we got 12 plus 19 equals 31. In number 2, this time we need to find the length of QS, but QS is this short little segment. And so we'll notice that the length of QR, the whole line segment, is 59. And so if I take away the length of SR, which is 47, from 59, I'm left with the measure or the length of QS. So I can take the total and subtract the part to get the length of QS. And my explanation for this one is that the length of my whole line segment QR minus the length of SR should get me the length of QS. Number 3, M is the midpoint of C and D. We need to first find the coordinates of M. So we actually have to find the midpoint. So we're going to use the midpoint formula. I'm given my two endpoints. My two endpoints I'm going to label with x1, y1, x2, y2. So up above, I'm going to go to my midpoint formula. My midpoint formula tells me that I have to do x1 plus x2 divided by 2 to get the x coordinate of the midpoint, and then y1 plus y2 divided by 2 to get the y coordinate of the midpoint. I'm going to go ahead and plug these numbers in. So to find the midpoint, I'm going to evaluate these two expressions. So -1 plus -8 is -9. And I could divide that by 2 to get a decimal. I'm going to leave it as a fraction, -9/2. And 7 plus -3 is 4. And 4 divided by 2 gets me 2. So my final answer, I'm going to keep -9/2 as a fraction, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. In part B, they want me to find the distance between C and D. So this time, I need to use the distance formula. So this is provided to you. I'm going to rewrite it. I've already labeled my points up above, so I need to take these numbers and plug them into my formula. X2 is -8 minus x1 is -1. Y2 is -3 minus y1 is 7. Remember, we're going to do what's inside parentheses first. When I have minus and negative, that's the same as adding. So I need to do negative 8 plus 1, which is negative 7. Negative 3 minus 7 is negative 10. Notice I kept my parentheses. When I square negative 7, I get positive 49. And when I square negative 10, I get positive 100. (49) plus 100 is 149. And so to get my final answer, I need to take the square root of 149. They tell me to round to the nearest tenths place. So if you forgot on your calculator, if this is one that you have to get to my square root symbol, I need to hit second x squared. And I get 12.2. And for the last one on this page, number 4, the midpoint of line segment EF is M1, negative 1. One endpoint is E, negative 3, 2. Find the coordinates of endpoint F. So this is one where we know one of our endpoints. So I'm going to go to my endpoint and I'm going to label this x1, y1. I don't know the coordinates of my other endpoint, but I'm going to label this other endpoint x2, y2. Remember, we named the endpoints x1, y1, x2, y2. What I do know is my midpoint. And so we've learned this one using a couple of different methods. First, I'll use this number line method over here. I've already kind of set each number line up. Let's work with our x coordinates first. We know the x coordinate of my midpoint has to be in the middle. So I'm going to take 1, which is the x coordinate of my midpoint. Here's my midpoint. And stick that in the middle of my number line. I know the x coordinate of one of my endpoints is negative 3. So I'm going to get negative 3 and I'm going to put it on my number line. So I need to go from 1 to negative 3. So 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Here's my other endpoint, my first endpoint. My job is to find the other endpoint. In order for 1 to be in the middle, x2 has to be somewhere over here. So I'm going to count how far away is x1 from 1. It has a distance of 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need to make sure I count 4 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. And when I figure out what number that is, x2 is 5. Okay. Let's do my y coordinates. The y coordinate of my midpoint is negative 1. So I know that that needs to be in the middle. The y coordinate of my first endpoint is 2. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on my number line. 0, 1, 2. In order for negative 1 to be in the middle, y2, the other y coordinate, needs to be on the left. How far on the left? It needs to be 3 away on the left. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. And that has a value of negative 4. So my y2, the y coordinate of my second endpoint, is negative 4. And I have my answer. I can use another method to find this point. So I kind of made a little separation here. We can also use the midpoint formula. So I wrote the midpoint formula up above the midpoint here so you can visualize what's going on. I know that the x coordinate of my midpoint is 1, which means that in my midpoint formula, x1 plus x2 has to be equal to 1. Oh, x1 plus x2 divided by 2 has to be equal to 1. So there's my first equation. When I look at my y-coordinate of my midpoint, I see that it's -1. So that means y1 plus y2 divided by 2 has to be equal to -1. So I've got my equation set up. I'm ready to now take my values for x1 and y1 and plug them into my equation. x1 is -3. y1 is 2. So here are my two equations I have to solve. I need to get x2 and y2 alone. Remember, my first step is to get rid of the denominator by multiplying by 2. Whatever I do to one side, I need to do to the other. I'm almost there. To get x2 alone, I need to add 3 to both sides. And I see x2 is equal to 5, which is what we got using the number line method. Still need to solve this equation over here. Again, I need to multiply by 2 to get rid of the denominator. Do the same thing on the right. I need to subtract 2 from both sides. And I get that y2 is equal to -4, which is what I got using the number line method.